One of the great dangers to the soul of a Christian is that we forget God. We are so prone to forget God. God is active in our world. He's extremely active in our own lives, but we often forget to take notice of that. How quickly we move on when he answers one of our prayers, we usually forget to even say thank you or to celebrate the fact that he answered our request. He did the impossible. When we're feeling anxious about our finances, do we remember God and how many times he's come through for us in the past? Or do we forget? When we feel ashamed of our sin, do we remember the forgiveness of God, forgiveness that was purchased at a great price on his part on the cross? Or do we forget and persist in our shame? The people of God have been prone to forgetting God for millennia. It's fairly clear in the Bible that when God's people go astray, when they wander away from faithfulness to him into rebellion against him, it's because they forget him. They forget him. And we see this in our own lives. I can look back, and I'm sure you can look back too, at your most spiritually dark seasons. And who are you thinking about in those times? Probably not God. It's probably something else. You've forgotten him. It's usually because we're forgetting him that we're walking in darkness. And it's really easy to remember God when you feel your need for him, but when life is smooth and comfortable and easy, that's when we're so prone to forget. And that's why God gave us the concept of feasting. He gave us the concept of feasting to remind us. If forgetting God is the primary culprit for leading us astray, then it stands to reason that the primary remedy would be a feast, something to remember him. And that's exactly what God does. He knows our frame. He understands our weakness. He gets our propensity to forget him, and so he gives us a tool to remind us. And that's the concept of a feast. That's his response to our forgetfulness. Now, in our minds, I don't know about you, but I tend to associate feasting with like overeating, gorging, right? Gluttony, right? That's the concept that we have of feasting, but that's not what feasting means in the Bible. That's not what God talks about when he initially introduces us to the concept of feasting. While it does involve lots of good food and good drinks, the core of feasting is celebrating the past to give hope for the future. The core of feasting, if you didn't hear what I said, is remembering, celebrating the past to give hope for the future. That's what a feast is for. So anyone feeling hopeless in here this morning, this is for you. This text is for you. It's to give you hope about the future. This has been a hard year for many of you. Such a hard year for so many of you. So many of you are in here with broken hearts. I know that. Many of you are in here with cancer. Many of you are in here with loss in your life. You need this. You need this reasoning for feasting this morning. And many of you are comfortable and life is easy and smooth. It's not been a hard year. It's been a great year. And you're prone to forget God. You need this too. So wherever you're coming from, we need the words of God to teach us how to feast, to teach us to remember the past in order to hope for the future. That's what we're going to see this morning in our text. But before we get into our text in Exodus, let me just remind you of how we got here. This year for Advent, we decided to just keep going through the book of Exodus because we landed in the Passover texts over December. And the Passover text, if you remember, started all the way back in the beginning of Exodus, with the concept of the darkness that surrounded Israel was introduced. Israel was thrust into slavery by an evil king of Egypt, and he put them into slavery because he was afraid of how quickly they were multiplying. And it wasn't the kind of slavery that was just, he was just trying to make cities and money off of their work. No, he was actually trying to kill them with slavery. It was a genocidal agenda. That's what the Pharaoh was trying to do. Satan was working behind the scenes, trying to stop the seed of Eve, the seed of the woman, from coming into the world to save the world from sin. It was this really evil plot. And so the people of God, enslaved, having genocidal acts committed against them, cried out to God and asked for deliverance. And God heard their cry. And he responded by striking Egypt and Pharaoh with 9 plagues. 9 plagues, and at the end of 9 plagues, Pharaoh's will was unaffected. In fact, it was even harder than it was before. His knees were unbent. And so God sent the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn sons of Egypt. God struck Egypt with a great blow that night, and Pharaoh lost his own son, the heir to the throne and also the heir of the divine representation of Ra, the god of Egypt. That line was cut off. And Israel's sons were spared. They were saved because God instructed them to paint the blood of a lamb over their doorposts, and God would see that a lamb had died so a son didn't have to. And so God passed over their houses. Egypt's sons were killed by the justice of God. We saw that in the second week of Advent. And then last week, the whole book of Exodus was building to the tension of last week, the climax of Israel being set free because Pharaoh finally relented and he let them go. So Israel walked out as freed slaves delivered. And today in our last Advent sermon, we're going to see that God is going to tell them to mark their calendars to remember what he had done for them. To mark their calendars every year and to hold a feast to remember his works in Egypt. Our main point this morning is that the right response to freedom is feasting. The right response to freedom is feasting. Our text this morning is Exodus 13. We're going to read the whole chapter, verses 1 through 22. Exodus chapter 13. If you've got your Bibles, go ahead and make your way over there. Starting in verse 1. The Lord said to Moses, "Consecrate to me all the firstborn. Whatever is the first to open the womb among the people of Israel, both man and of beast, is mine." Then Moses said to the people, "Remember this day in which you came out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, for by a strong hand the Lord brought you out from this place. No leavened bread shall be eaten. Today, in the month of Abib, you are going out. And when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you shall keep this service in this month. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a feast to the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten for 7 days. No leavened bread shall be seen with you, and no leaven shall be seen with you in all your territory. You shall tell your son on that day, it is because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. And it shall be to you as a sign on your hand and as a memorial between your eyes, that the law of the Lord may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand the Lord has brought you out of Egypt. You shall therefore keep this statute at its appointed time from year to year. When the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your fathers, and shall give it to you, you shall set apart to the Lord all that first opens the womb. All the firstborn of your animals that are males shall be the Lord's. Every firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb. Or if you will not redeem it, you shall break its neck. Every firstborn of man among your sons you shall redeem. And when in time to come, your son asks you, what does this mean? You shall say to him, by a strong hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt, from the house of slavery. For when Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, the Lord killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of animals. Therefore, I sacrifice to the Lord all the males that first open the womb, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. It shall be as a mark on your hand or frontlets between your eyes. For by a strong hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. And the people of Israel went up out of the land of Egypt, equipped for battle. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for Joseph had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones with you from here. And they moved on from Succoth and encamped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them along the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, that they might travel by day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night did not depart from before the people. The word of our Lord. Our text shows God's people 5 reasons to feast. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are. It doesn't matter what kind of year you've had. It doesn't matter how spiritually cold your heart feels. There are 5 reasons for you, for every one of you in here who belong to God, to feast. So why should God's people feast? Reason number 1, God possesses his people. God possesses his people. Now, what do I mean by the word possesses? I mean that his people belong to him. We are his possession. He belongs to his people, and his people belong to him. I get this from verses 1 and 2. The Lord said to Moses, "Consecrate to me all the firstborn, whatever is first to open the womb among the people of Israel, both man and of beast, is mine." It's mine, he says. If you remembered all the way back in chapter 4, we learned what this word consecrate means. It means to take something simple, something base, something normal, and to give it to God, to make it his, to make it holy. And so what Israel is asked to do is give God your sons. Give him your sons. Give him your firstborn sons. Give yourselves to me. This is the first thing he tells them to do after they're set free from slavery. Give yourselves to me. Now, this isn't just a transfer of ownership from one tyrant, Pharaoh, to another God. This is more like being set free from slavery to get married. He will give himself to his people as well. God is asking Israel, give me all your firstborns as a symbol of your best, your first, the priority. It belongs to him. Now think about this for a second. If God asks you for your firstborn son, you don't actually know if there's going to be a second. It requires you to trust him. This is all that I have right now, God. This is my only child right now. Can I trust you to give me more? This one is yours. It's God asking his people to trust him. It's God asking his people for everything, for your hope, for your future, for your trust, your legacy. It's God asking Abraham to give up Isaac. It's asking for all of you. So the first word out of God's mouth to his people after he sets them free is, you belong to me. You are mine. You're my possession. And you'll have to trust me. You'll have to depend on me. Now, what does that have to do with feasting? Well, this is how it relates to feasting. True feasting is born in true belonging. True feasting is born in true belonging. All of us feel the need. You feel this deep in your soul. You feel the need to belong to a tribe, to a group, to a family, to a friend group, right? You feel that need. And we feel that especially profoundly at Christmas time. Feasting is incredibly wonderful, but also so incredibly painful because it accentuates whatever our reality is. If you're closely connected to a family, to a friend group, to a tribe, feasting, celebration, the joyous exchanging of gifts, it's heightened, right? Because you're surrounded by people you love, people who are like you, people who belong to each other. And so it's heightened. But if you're not, your loneliness, your unbelonging, your broken relationships, all of those things are magnified. That's why feasting can be incredibly painful if you're not connected to the group, if you don't belong to somebody. The fact that God tells Israel that they belong to him puts them in a group, puts them in a tribe, in a family. It unites them around a common goal, a common purpose. It connects them to a shared past and to a shared future. So when they feast with a common identity, freed slaves who belong to God. And church, I can tell you, we have every reason to feast just as hard as Israel did. We were set free from slavery to Satan and to sin. Israel was asked to consecrate their firstborns to God, but God gave his only son to us so that we not only belong to him, but he also belongs to us. We have every reason to feast. We belong. We are his, and he is ours. Why should God's people feast? Because God possesses his people. Reason number 2, God provides for his people. Look at verse 5. And when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which he swore to give to your fathers, to give to you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you shall keep this service in this month. The first thing that God told them when they got out of slavery was, "You're mine." The second thing he tells them is, remember to feast. Remember to feast. Set this day on the calendar and remind yourselves every year of what I've done for you. Keep this service every month. God's telling them, look, I'm going to provide you with an inheritance. I'm giving you a country, a land to live in, a good land with abundant food and drink. That's what milk and honey represents. It's going to be a good land full of incredible resources. But he's saying, don't get distracted. Don't forget about me. In the midst of an incredible land with all the resources, all the comfort, all the security that I'm going to provide for you, don't forget about God. Don't forget the one who gave it all to you. Don't forget about me, Israel. Am I the only one that gets distracted by God's stuff, by the good gifts that he gives? Sometimes I feel like we're prone to love his stuff more than himself. We like God's stuff. It's nice stuff. I mean, we don't want milk and honey probably, but we like good salaries and houses and land and healthy children, right? All good things, all stuff that he provides. But do we love those things more than the giver of the gifts? He's saying, set time in your calendar, in your schedule, to remember the giver over the gift. Enjoy the gifts, but remember the one who's giving them to you. Don't forget God. When you're feasting this year, are you thankful for his stuff, or are you more thankful for him? Let's look at the wonderful stuff that we get this year. There's a lot of cool stuff under the tree. There's a lot of great family coming into town. Really, really wonderful gifts. But remember the one who gave them to you. Why should God's people feast? God possesses and God provides for his people. Reason number 3, God purifies his people. I get this from verses 6 through 8. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a feast to the Lord. Unleavened bread you shall eat for 7 days. No leavened bread shall be seen with you, and no leaven shall be seen with you in all your territory. And you shall tell your son on that day, it is because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. Now, we saw this instruction to remove all the leaven from their houses and from their bread way back in chapter 12, a couple weeks ago. When God was telling Israel to get rid of the leaven before the destroyer came to kill the firstborn sons of Egypt, he was telling them to do that for a specific reason. Now, it's not incredibly clear in the Bible what that reason is. God is very deliberate. He's very clear. No leaven. Not only can it not be in your bread, it can't be in your house, not in your pantry, not in your yard, not even in your territory. So God is taking this really, really seriously, and he repeats it a bunch of times. So what's the big deal about leaven? The Bible actually never tells us. Some scholars think that leaven was, a comfort that they learned in Egypt, right? Leaven is it's a yeast, right? And its job is to make bread fluffy and flavorful. It makes it taste better, right? That's why our communion bread is so gross, because it's unleavened bread. It's like that on purpose, actually. But God says, get rid of all the leaven. And we're not told exactly what's wrong with the leaven. We can speculate, but we do have a hint. We're left with a reference to leaven in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. In the context of 1 Corinthians chapter 5, the Apostle Paul is writing to the Corinthian church because they are bragging about how tolerant of sin they have become. They're bragging because there's a member in their midst who is living in unrepentant, open sexual sin, and they're saying, you're fine. welcome. That's great. We love you. You're doing incredible. You're doing a great job. You and your relationship with the Lord. Good job, buddy. And Paul says, you're bragging about this. This is what he says in 1 Corinthians 5. Your boasting is not good. Do you not know that a little leaven leavens the whole lump? Cleanse out the old leaven that you may be a new lump, as you really are unleavened. For Christ, our Passover lamb, has been sacrificed. Let us therefore celebrate the festival, not with old leaven, the leaven of malice and evil, but with unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So Paul is referencing the Passover feast in that. Did you catch that? The Passover lamb, the unleavened bread. And he relates the leaven to sin that corrupts. Just like leaven or yeast, if you're into the sourdough thing, like my wife is, you put a little bit of yeast in the lump, and it actually permeates the whole loaf. That's what he's saying. A little bit of yeast will permeate everything. A little bit of sin that's not addressed, a tiny acceptable sin, can permeate the entire life and an entire community. If we give sin an inch in our lives, it will take a mile. And not just in our lives, but in the whole community. If the community is accepting of sin, it's going to permeate all of us. Now, that's not to say that this is a place for perfect people. We come to church because we're imperfect people. We all have sin, of course. The question is, are we accepting it or are we fighting against it? That's the difference between somebody who belongs to God and somebody who doesn't. Somebody who belongs to God will strive to remove the leaven from their life, from their camp, from their community. So what God is telling Israel to do is to purify themselves, to remove the sin from the camp. There's only one problem with that. Israel could not purify themselves. They could take the leaven out. That's easy. They can't take the sin out. We see this play out in Israel's history. We see this play out in Exodus. Almost immediately after they leave Egypt, they are complaining against God for his rescue and asking to go back to slavery. They couldn't change their hearts. They couldn't purify themselves of their sin. They're so eager to abandon God and go back to Pharaoh. And the problem with Israel is that they're incapable of purifying themselves. They're incapable of making themselves worthy of God, worthy to be possessed by God, worthy of God's provision. They needed someone else to purify them. And don't you feel this too? I mean, I do. When I see passages in the scriptures like 1 Corinthians 5 that say, hey, purify yourself, get rid of your sin, I'm like, great, I'd love to. I would have done that if I could. How do I do it? Easy to say, Paul. How do you do it? We can come to passages like that. We can come to a church like that and hear a pastor say, you got to get rid of the sin in your life, and you just feel so small, like, yeah, I've been trying. How do you do it in reality? Our text tells us how. Look at verse 15. Therefore, I sacrifice to the Lord all the males that first open the womb, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. Now, it's not immediately clear on the surface what I'm talking about, but the first offspring that comes out of any female animal had to be killed, sacrificed to the Lord. But for a human, they didn't have to be sacrificed. They could be bought with the blood of a lamb. They should be bought with the blood of the lamb. You're not supposed to sacrifice children in God's economy. You're supposed to sacrifice lambs to purchase the children, to cover them, to pay the price so that the son didn't have to pay the price himself. So how does a person purify themselves of their sin? You give yourself to God and you ask him to do it because you can't. I've been trying. You've been trying. We can't do it. But if we give ourselves to him, he can do it. He purifies his people. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 6, right after he talked about getting rid of the leaven from your midst, he says, you are not your own. You were bought with a price. You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. The price he's referring to is the blood of the Lamb of God that we talked about 3 weeks ago, the blood of Jesus Christ that redeems, that purchases anyone who will give themselves to God. The way that you purify yourselves is you give every unsurrendered part of your life to him. The parts of you that are sinning, you say, it's not mine anymore. I've been trying to control this for a long time. I've been trying to get better in this area, but it's not working. God, will you do it? This is yours. This is your area. This unconsecrated corner of my life now belongs to you. And he starts to purify. And it does take time. And we do have to cooperate. It does take time. But feasts, by the way, are good markers for us to notice the change that God is doing in our lives, for us to notice the purification that he's doing in our lives year over year. Use your feasts as reference points. Have I grown in my love for God between last Christmas and this Christmas? Have I made strides to control my temper in 2024? God calls us to be his people, and then he commands us to remove the leaven from our lives. Even a little bit is dangerous. Are there areas in your life that you're planning to keep to yourself in 2025? Areas where you're thinking, I'll give him everything else, but this is mine. This is my area. This is my bitterness. This is my unforgiveness. This is my thing that he can't have, he can't touch, he can't purify. These are good markers when you hit feast days, when you hit holidays, to say, have I grown in this? Have I surrendered all of it? Count these days in your calendar. Can you give him everything in 2025? Can you give him your phone, your sexuality, your diet, your marriage, your kids? Can you give it all to him? How can those parts of your life be purified if you're holding them back from the only one who can purify? Why should God's people feast? God possesses, provides for, and purifies his people. Reason number 4, God protects his people. God protects his people. We see this in verses 17 and 18. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. And the people of Israel went up out of the land, equipped for battle. God knows what his people can handle. He knows what his people can handle. He equipped them for battle, and they left Egypt with weapons, but he still didn't lead them into the battle. There will be war coming. There is a conquest to come in the book of Joshua. There will be many battles, but coming out the gates of Egypt, God protects his people. He preserves them from that. He says, not yet. This is too soon. You're not ready for this. Let me take you away from the battle into a way that's safer, that's more peaceful, where there's not going to be a nation who's eager to take advantage of a ragtag group of slaves loaded with the wealth of Egypt, untrained as soldiers. That would have been a disaster. God knows what his people can handle, and God knows what you can handle too. He will only put you through what he will support you through. He will only put you through what he will support you through. If he asks you to go through something challenging, then he will arm you for it and he will go with you. That's your experience through suffering, isn't it, church? If you're going through something challenging, he arms you for it. You feel like you're barely surviving, but he is going with you. He knows what you can handle. But this isn't the only protection, the only form of protection that God gives Israel. Notice in verse 19. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him. For Joseph had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones with you from here. Joseph was the great ancestor of the Israelites, and his story in Egypt was a mini version of Israel's story. He was sold into slavery, and then God promoted him to the very second in command of Egypt. 400 years after Joseph, Israel was set free, and they remembered the dying request of their ancestor Joseph to bring his bones back to the land of Canaan, the land that he had left, that they had left, and that they were going to return to, the promised land. And there's a lesson here for us. Feasting is a chance to remember past victories. Feasting is a chance to remember past victories. Remember, feasting is at its core remembering and celebrating the past in order to give hope for the future. Shelley Young shared this video with me a couple days ago. I think it was a TikTok video. This kid, this high schooler, was just diagnosed with cancer for the third time. And somebody asked him if he's scared. He said, "No, I'm not scared. I'm not scared because it's like on a Sunday morning when your favorite football team is about to play. And you can't watch the game because you've got your priorities right and you got to go to church." He didn't say that. I said that. Your favorite football team is about to play, but you can't watch the game because you got to go to church. And so you hit record on the game and you go to church. And after church is over, because you don't check the score during church, you see that your team has won. And so you're excited. You're filled with joy because your favorite football team has just won the game. You didn't watch the game yet, but you go home and you sit on the couch and you turn on the game. And your quarterback starts throwing interceptions. And your team starts fumbling the ball, and there's turnover after turnover, and they're scoring touchdowns against your team, and you're like, what is going on? And you get to halftime, and are you worried? You're not worried because you're just excited about the second half comeback because you already know the end. He said, "I'm not scared of cancer for the third time because I know that Jesus has already won on the cross. I'm not scared of cancer because I know the outcome. I know the score." John 17, Jesus prays to his Father, "I will not lose one that you have given me." It means every single person that belongs to him, he will not lose. Every single person who has given themselves to God, he will not lose. That's a promise from your King. If you have been purchased by him, if you have consecrated yourself to him, then you are protected by him and nothing can happen to you outside of his control. But more importantly, you are absolutely secure in the next life. That's what Jesus is saying when he says, "I will not lose one." He's saying that the flames of hell cannot even lick the toes of the ones he died for. Satan can't say a word against you. Your sins cannot touch you. They cannot accuse you because you're protected by the blood of the Lamb, Jesus Christ. He protects those who belong to him. Why should God's people feast? God possesses, provides for, purifies, and protects his people. And reason number 5, God is present with his people. God is present with his people. Here's the last reason given in our text to feast. God is present. Look at verses 21 and 22. "And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them along the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, that they might travel by day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night did not depart from before the people." It's important to see that God had no intention of just freeing his people and then keeping them at arm's distance, keeping them at arm's length. God has always wanted to be with his people. That's always been his goal. God, who needed nothing and no one, was eager to have an object to pour his love onto, and that's why he created humans. Because he was overflowing and brimming with love and with joy, and he needed somebody to overflow onto, and so he created humans. He's always wanted to be with us. His desire from the beginning was to be with us. But Satan, of course, corrupted humanity. The fall of humanity into sin severed our ability to be with God because we were too sinful to stand in front of such love and such joy and such goodness. We were too impure. But God's plan to be with us could not be stopped. Satan couldn't stop it. Pharaoh couldn't stop it. Slavery couldn't stop it. Genocide couldn't stop it. Nothing can stop God from being with his people. And he made a way to be with us by sending Jesus Christ. Israel's freedom from slavery was just a small part of the story. It was just a small part of the story. The bigger story was that 1,500 years after Israel was set free from slavery, God himself would step foot on this planet, with Israelite blood in his veins, but he was God in the flesh. And he had come to be with us. He came to possess us for God, to be ours and to make us his. He came to provide a homeland for us, better than the world that we currently live in, better than any world we've ever known. He came to provide us with a future hope. He came to protect us from ourselves, from sin, and from Satan. He defeated all of our enemies on the cross and will carry us safely home. He will not lose one of us. Jesus also came to purify us. He was the Lamb that claims us for God. His was the blood that takes away our sin. And finally, Jesus came that first Christmas to be present with us, to be among us, to overflow onto the world. 5 reasons to feast, all rooted in Jesus Christ. He possesses us, he provides for us, he protects us, he purifies us, he is present with us. Christians, these things are true of you, whether this was your worst year or whether this was your best year. You have reasons to feast that cannot be taken away or diminished by your suffering. You have reasons to feast that cannot be diminished by your loneliness or overwhelmed by your broken relationships. It cannot be stolen by your sin. You have reasons to feast in Jesus Christ. You have been set free to feast, to remember. Now, I want to give you some practical points to apply to your feasting this year, this week. First, feast deliberately. Feast deliberately. The details of a feast matter. Why are these herbs bitter, Dad? That's what Israelite kids were asking. Why is this bread so crunchy? Why do we have to have lamb? All the little details matter. Don't be afraid to make your feasts the same every single year. Don't be afraid of that. I want to share a really fascinating quote from C.S. Lewis from the Screwtape Letters. The Screwtape Letters is a book that he wrote, and it's from the perspective of an imaginary demon talking to his demon disciple. So when he talks about the enemy, he's talking about God, all right? Just giving you some context there. Listen to what C.S. Lewis says. The horror of the same old thing is one of the most valuable passions that we have produced in the human heart. An endless source of heresies in religion, folly in counsel, infidelity in marriage, and inconstancy in friendship. The humans live in time and experience reality successively. To experience much of it, therefore, they must experience many different things. In other words, they must experience change. And since they need change, the enemy, God, being a hedonist at heart, has made change pleasurable to them, just as he has made eating pleasurable. But since he does not wish them to make change any more than eating an end in itself, he has balanced the love of change in them by a love of permanence. He has contrived to gratify both tastes together in the very world he has made by the union of change and permanence, which we call rhythm. Tune in here. He gives them the seasons, each season different, yet every year the same, so that spring is always felt as a novelty, yet always as the recurrence of an immemorial theme. He gives his church a spiritual year. They change from a feast to a fast, and from a fast to a feast, but it's always the same feast as the year before. We desire permanence, we desire change. Those two things come together in feasting. Don't be afraid to establish the same tradition year in and year out. Your heart is longing for change, but it's also yearning for permanence and recurrence. So mark your calendars the same time every year to celebrate different feasts. Bring in different foods for those different feasts, different drinks, different people, different reasons to feast, different reasons to celebrate, and yet every year looks the same as it did last year. So feast deliberately. Second, feast directionally. Feast directionally, right? Don't let your feasting just be isolated to today, but look back. Look back at the past victories. Look back at the past year. Look forward to the future. Anticipate and hope in what God is going to do. Look forward in faith. Look down at the people that you're with. Enjoy the good gifts of God. And then most importantly, look up. Look up at the God who gave you all these things, the God who's changing you, the God who is bringing permanence and change. Number 3, feast dutifully. Don't let it be random. Plan ahead. Be disciplined about it. Feast on many different holidays. Make up holidays. Find excuses to feast with people. Find friend groups to feast with. Find family to feast with. Make new friends to feast with on certain holidays or made up holidays. We feast with the Yangs every St. Patty's Day. We feast with the Camachos every Cinco de Mayo. I'm not Mexican, but he is. We feast as often as we can, right? That's the idea. Find excuses to celebrate. Find excuses to look back, to look forward, to look down, and to look up. Finally, feast delightfully. For many people, feasts are just an excuse or a chance to escape their hard reality. Or it's an obligatory family get-together that they hate. Feast delightfully. Don't let that be your kind of feast. Ecclesiastes says, it's for strength, not for drunkenness, that we feast. It's not an escape. It's for strength. It's for strengthening you for another year, for another week, for another month, for another season. Make serious effort to take delight in your feasts. We are, after all, people of the resurrection, aren't we? We are people who have a citizenship in a better country than this one, a heavenly country. We are people who will live forever with God, are we not? I want to close by reading a prayer from the book Every Moment Holy. I've read a prayer from this book before, but this one is called A Liturgy for Feasting with Friends. I want to close in prayer with this. Bow your heads with me. To gather joyfully is indeed a serious affair. For feasting and all enjoyments gratefully taken are, at their heart, acts of war. In celebrating this feast, we declare that evil and death, suffering and loss, sorrow and tears will not have the final word. But the joy of fellowship and the welcome and comfort of friends, new and old, and the celebration of these blessings of food and drink and conversation and laughter are the true evidences of things eternal and are the first fruits of that great glad joy that is to come and that will be unending. So let our feast this day be joined to those sure victories secured by Christ. Let it be to us now a delight, a glad foretaste of his eternal kingdom. Bless us, O Lord, in this feast. Bless us, O Lord, as we linger over our cups and over tables laden with good things, as we relish the delights of varied texture and flavor, of aromas and savory spices, of dishes prepared as acts of love and blessing, of sweet delights made sweeter by the communion of the saints. May this shared meal and our pleasure in it bear witness against the artifice and the deceptions of the prince of the darkness that would blind this world to hope. May it strike at the root of the lie that would drain life of meaning and the world of joy and suffering of redemption. May this, our feast, fall like a great hammer blow against the brittle night, shattering the gloom, reawakening our hearts, stirring our imaginations, focusing our vision on the kingdom of heaven that is to come, on the kingdom that is promised, on the kingdom that is already indeed among us. For the resurrection of all good things has already joyfully begun. May this feast be an echo of the great supper of the Lamb and a foreshadowing of the great celebration that awaits the children of God. Where two or more of us are gathered, O Lord, there you have promised to be. And here we are. And so here you are. Take joy, O King, in this our feast. Take joy, O King. All will be well. Participants, take up the cry. All will be well. Nothing good and right and true will be lost forever. All good things will be restored. Feast and be reminded. Take joy, little flock. Take joy. Let the battle be joined. Let the battle be joined. Now you who are loved by the Father, prepare your hearts and give yourselves wholly to the celebration, to the glad company of saints, to the comforting fellowship of the Spirit, and to the abiding presence of Christ who is seated among us, as both our host and our honored guest, and still yet as our conquering King. Amen.